Right, we're about halfway through now, and to be honest, this long line's still producing. It's not absolutely solid, but they're nice quality fish when I get one, and I've definitely found that topping up with ground bait has not put the fish off. If anything, it's sort of helped me keep them coming. So that's going to be basically how I feed the peg in the most part. I'll keep cupping in little balls, and every now and then, say, just fire in a pouch of that big emp as well, and that's just keeping them fish glued down there where I want them on the bottom. I mean, loose feeding's wonderful. Like loose feeding, say with casters, is a great way to catch roach, but in this depth, when the fish are happy eating the ground bait, I just think feedings with ground bait's the best way to go, because you're keeping everything nice and tight and accurate, and that in turn speeds up your catch rate. Now, pleasingly, that short line's also been good. I said that when I have cupped a ball in long, what I've done is I've just dropped short for a couple of minutes, and every time I've done that, I've had regular bites. So that's been very, very pleasing as well. So I've got two nice little areas where I can keep nicking fish from, and hopefully keep sort of building away throughout the full 5 hours. Or that's the hope anyway. Like, but bites are coming pretty regularly. I just want to talk a little bit about general deep water fishing, because obviously you come places like this and it is quite daunting if you've never done it before. You need a few different top fives for your pole. I think that's one thing that puts some people off sometimes. It's the cost and the expense of buying them, but you don't actually have to have them if you're pleasure fishing, for example, because what you can actually do is just wrap your rigs round a winder and tuck them inside your top kit, so your number 4. So don't let it put you off coming pleasure fishing somewhere like this. But in a match for speed, I'd always suggest investing in a few top 5s. Now, Daiwa do generic number 4s and generic number 5s, which actually helps keep the cost down a little bit. And they're not quite as good as the ones that come with the poles, as sort of crafted number 5s and 4s that come with each of their sort of flagship models. But when you're doing this type of fishing, unless you're fishing sort of 16 metres, generally it doesn't matter, they're plenty good enough. So I've actually got some generic 4s and 5s on this, which just helps me set multiple rigs up. Now, that half butt's also a useful thing to have. Like, I use that a lot in my fishing, and that just allows me to sneak around my feed area, which can work really, really well, to be honest, on this sort of venue. I do like every now and then you'll see I'm shuffling out past, especially if I'm following a float down the peg a little way, you know, you're able just to sneak down and just give yourself an extra little bit of area to explore the water, which is, as I said, very, very useful today. I think one of the biggest things that I can show you, which I remember years ago, I think it was Lee Kerry who actually showed me this quite a long time ago, when I first started fishing the Stainforth and Keeber Canal. And it just relates to how you put your rig in, because obviously on a lot of shallow venues or shallow rivers, if I was shipping out here, I'd just be laying the rig out and letting basically the shot pull the float through the water in a nice arc, keeping everything tight, and that would be a very, very nice, efficient way of putting your rig in and catching. But on deep venues, it's not the way to do it. So watch what I do. I lift the whole rig out, I drop the Olivet in at the top of the peg, and then basically I'm zigzagging. You can see me zigzagging that line in, and then dropping the float on the water. And what that does is it helps get that rig straight down in the water column without tangling. So just drop your Olivet where you want it, zigzag your line in, and then you say, obviously we've got a lovely bit of flow today, so I'm not even holding onto the float really, I'm just following it down the peg, because the fish definitely seem to want the bait at the pace of the river, or so it seems. So just following it down. Now that time you can see that float's crept past, so I'm going to go out to the extent of my dolly butt And something else you've got to do is just find out where you get your bites. Like, I've not had anything really lower than that, so I'm not going to follow it any further. I'm going to come back to the top of the peg, drop the olivet in like I said, zigzag the line over the top of it, and just drop the float on the water. Now I've actually got a bit of time then while everything catches up to loose feed a bit of hemp, so obviously we're doing that every 2 or 3 fish today, so just keeping that falling through, and we're fishing again. So it's them few things really. I think make sure, if you can afford it, get some generic 4s and 5s. They're cheaper than buying, you know, the proper ones for your pole. They just let you have multiple rigs set up. One other thing with regard to elastication, now I do this everywhere, but it's particularly useful on deep venues. You'll notice that my pole is only elasticated through the top 2 sections. I've got a short number 1, it's probably only about 5 or 6 inches of that sticking out the end of my number 2, and then I've got my number 2 section elasticated, so probably in total about 4 foot of elastic through the pole. And what that means is, as I sort of strike, I've got the nice softness of it. When I've got a swing fish like this, that is actually locking up now, and you can see that number 1 section locking. But because there's not a great length of elastic through there, that means the fish just comes straight into hand, so it's really useful when swinging fish in like we are today. That's about it really, folks. A good top kit roost is obviously important as well. No need for anything fancy. I've just got one of the Colmic back roosts and a Preston freestanding one, so you know, they haven't broke the bank, as it were. Just allows you to get set up neatly, and obviously if you've got all that expensive carbon, you want it sort of protected really. But, yeah, they're the main sort of things with regard to tackling deep venues. Keep it simple, nice and accurate. So put your rig in like that nice sort of zigzag effect. Where you can, as I said, I think feeding with ground bait when you can get away with it is the way to go. Like, it's just so clean and keeps everything pinned to the bottom where you want to catch it. So I'm going to be sticking with that through the day, hopefully. As I said, they don't always have that. Sometimes you have to, unfortunately, catch with your loose feed, but it's a bit of a controversial point this, but always be careful listening to people who tell you ground bait don't work. The number of places I've been on deep venues, or any venue for that matter, and you speak to people and you say, oh no, fish don't like ground bait, they back off it. And what's actually happening is fish are backing off their ground bait that they're using. And there's other mixers that they come to, like, you know, a few people sort of said that to Jordan and I about this venue, but we've both had some wonderful days fishing over ground bait. So certainly not the fact that if one person can't catch over ground bait that all the fish in the venue don't like it. It's just not like that. There we are, another lovely little roach. So I'll carry on and I'll bring you another little update in a little while.